So, like most people, I have struggled in the past with how to handle travel in my games. Do I hand wave it and say the players just arrive, or do you go down the route of having every single travel that the players do be some kind of obstacle that they have to overcome? Well, I recently found a new system called Campfire by Abyssal Brews, and it solves pretty much all of those problems. It takes the exploration and travel and turns them into a mechanized system that you can roll for and have different results, and it seems like a really cool system that's going to make travel a lot more interesting. This is not a sponsored video. I follow Abyssal Brews over on Twitter, and I saw that Campfire had been released, so I picked it up, read through it, and thought that folks might enjoy this kind of mechanization of the travel portion of the game. There's going to be links down in the description to where you can get hold of this, and we're going to dive in and talk about what I liked about this system and the way I would use it. So essentially, the Campfire system is a skill challenge. You are trying to make a number of skill checks and make a number of successes before you reach a number of failures. That is the core, bare bones, just basic nuts and bolts of the system, but there's a lot more that builds on top of that. So the system's broken into 3 distinct phases: preparation, expedition, and resolution. And during those 3 phases, different things happen. During the preparation phase, that's when the players will go and they'll prepare their gear ready to go out into the wilderness and go and do their traveling. But the GM is going to sit down and work out what the DC for their skill challenge is going to be. And that's going to be dependent on things like what kind of terrain they're moving in, what the weather's going to be, different aspects like that. And then the length of the journey determines your kind of difficulty rating for the skill challenge, so how many successes you need to get before you get failures. What I like about this is that there are a lot of dials that you can play with. So the examples given in the book might be what type of terrain there is, what type of weather, and what kind of distance you have. But you might also want to take into account things like the condition of the player's equipment. So if they are in an old rickety wagon, maybe the journey takes longer, so they have to get more successes before they reach failures and something interesting happens. Or you might decide that if someone is proficient in something like survival, or they have cartographer's tools proficiency and they're good with maps, maybe that will raise or lower the DC depending on the skills of the individual player, wherever it makes sense. And then you come to the expedition phase. That's where the players are going to actually make this skill challenge and try and beat the DC set up by the GM based on all those different criteria in the preparation phase, and try and get the number of successes they need before they get the number of failures. This is where your actual travel would take place, and if I were running this, the way I would handle it is I would start to describe the journey that my players were taking and encourage them to do some roleplay, and as they are roleplaying, that's where I'd start incorporating those roles. So if it were a 3-day journey, then I might split those roles up across the days and ask different players for different roles based on what I'm describing in the scene. When they start out, they might just need a simple survival check to make sure they're going the right way. Once they get through the treacherous mountains, they might need more of an animal handling to make sure the horses of the cart don't get too skittish and refuse to kind of advance, and all these little things to help make the travel feel alive to them and make them feel like there are actual things happening on the way that aren't necessarily random encounters or big set piece moments. Those come about mainly if they fail to make their rolls. And then we come to the resolution phase. Now this is where if the players have successfully passed their skill challenge, they will get a windfall, and if they have failed, they get a hardship. And these are 2 different tables filled with 20 different options in each for the kinds of things that the players might come across. So one of the windfalls might be that they meet a friendly NPC along the way, and that NPC might give them information. Items might let them buy something from them, or they might make a new ally who they can call on in the future. And then one of the hardships might be that the journey has taken significantly longer than you thought. It was much more difficult than you expected it to be, and so when you arrive at your destination, you're tired, you're exhausted, and as such you might have lower movement for the next 24 hours as you kind of recover from that arduous journey. Personally, I would be unlikely to use these tables as random tables, because I feel like like there is the chance there that you could create some disconnect. You might get a windfall or a hardship that doesn't make sense with what you have been describing during the travel. So what I would probably do is, as I'm setting up this travel, and I would set it up as I would any other encounter, I would make a plan, I would have a beginning, a middle and an end, I'd have some key points that I want to get to, and then at my planning for the end I would say, right, okay, if they pass their skill check, this is the windfall they're going to get. I'm going to choose from the table or make something up in a similar vein. And if they fail their skill check, they're going to have this particular hardship that makes sense with the terrain that they're going through, the kind of circumstances and context of the journey that they're making. Overall, Campfire is really quite a simple system, but it's elegant in its simplicity. I really enjoy the kind of mechanization of this process because it makes it really easy to tweak and adapt. It gives you a starting point to go, right, okay, I've got the foundation of mechanics on how to apply this travel system. Now I can start adding tweaks. I can change DCs. I've got all these little dials that I can play with to give a unique experience each time my players undergo a period of sustained travel, or I can adapt this and use it for, right, okay, the players are going across town and this is a rough city, there's a chance something might go wrong. Let's have them make a skill check, let's have them avoid obvious thugs, let's have them use those kind of secret pathways that they know about or don't know about. Let's have them stumble into problems and use this as kind of a catch-all basis for any time the players need to go from point A to point B. If you're interested in Campfire, all the links to it will be in the description below. Let me know what you thought about this, covering something a bit different, and let me know if there's any products that you'd like to see my thoughts on in the future down in the comments. But until next time, happy gaming.